up and down the river.
I remember the moment this local guy came up to me and said, "They call the guard out for this stuff?"
You probably thought we were all about hurricanes, tornadoes, fighting Mother Nature.
Hey, it's a chemical spill. It's a disaster.
It affects the water supply, threatens wildlife.
We're talking about the...
Good God! I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. What a whirlwind weekend. The capture of the assassin. He was shot in the throat. Many believe that he was trying to commit suicide, not wanting to face the wrath of American interrogation and the kinds of wounds that he has caused forever in this country. There's just so many rumors and so many stories that is just swirling all over the place. You really just don't know what to believe. Just so many stories. 200 rounds that were fired. They ran out of bullets. The police, they rammed the vehicle, damaging the brother. He jumped out, tried to detonate an explosive. It detonated in his hand. He started shooting with one hand. The police grabbed him, was putting handcuffs on him. The brother tried to take the vehicle, which was stolen, and run over them. And this is how he just dragged them for a long time. This is how he ultimately met his maker. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. It seems like CNN won't leave the story alone. Every second around the clock, they've got everybody in Massachusetts, and it's just round-the-clock coverage. Is that too much? Is it not enough? Have you been following the coverage of this political circus? Just the reminders of what they were able to do is just mind-boggling enough for someone like me. Surely it makes us cautious and vulnerable to know what people are capable of doing if they really put their minds to it. I know we're joined today by Dr. Barnard Cohen, who's a senior fellow at the NASA Center for Public Policy Research. I don't know if he's on the line. Dr. Cohen, are you there?
I certainly am.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the broadcast.
I'm delighted to be here.
It is our pleasure. You're first-time guest on our show, and we welcome that. You know, global warming and climate change have the potential for many to alter biological systems, and more specifically, changes to near-surface air temperature, and will likely influence the ecosystem, functioning thus the biodiversity of plants, animals, and other forms of life. Many believe that the current geographic ranges of plant and animal species have been established by adaptation to long-term seasonal climate patterns, and as global warming alters these patterns on timescales considerably shorter than those that arose in the past from natural climate viability, relatively sudden climatic changes may challenge the really the natural adaptive capacity of many species. Dr. Cohen, do you believe this, or what do you think the situation is?
Well, the situation is more or less as follows. If you accept the premise of the global warming / climate change alarmist that the planet is heating up as a direct consequence of human activities, specifically the burning of fossil fuels, and it is doing so to such an extent that it will pose all the various problems that you outlined in your introduction, then we have a serious problem. The problem with all of that is that the premise itself is highly dubious at best. The fact of the matter is that change in climate is the norm. Things don't stay the same. Nature is always changing. There is no balance in nature, as you will frequently hear. Everything is in flux. Every river in South Carolina has a different course now from what it had 15 seconds ago because rivers change course. Climates warm up, they cool down. Species come, species go. Well over 99% of the creatures who ever walked on the face, or crawled or swam or whatever they did, flew on the face of the earth, are long, long gone. Nature is constantly in flux. It makes perfectly good sense if you think beyond that. You realize that the universe is continuing to expand. So the notion that we can freeze things exactly as they are, keep temperatures more or less what they are now, we human beings who do crazy things and bear witness to crazy things, such as what we saw this past weekend in Boston, I think it's hubris on our part to believe that we're going to be able to order up the climate that we want and be able to determine which species are going to survive and which ones are not, simply because natural predation, failure to adapt to new circumstances, that's actually the norm. So I would just caution all of our listeners, don't allow yourself to be stampeded into believing that human activities are causing a warming climate, when, if you look at the temperature record, we see no such thing happening. Oh, we've had some very hot summers, and we will no doubt have them again. And we've had some unusually warm winters. But following the unusually warm winters, we have very cold winters. We have droughts. We have rainy seasons. Everything is in flux. Nothing stays the same. Is there a trend? The answer is no. As a matter of fact, we've had absolutely zero global warming for the past 16 or 17 years. Well, according to the theory of global warming, that can't happen. It's all things are going to continue to warm up. And as a matter of fact, they have not. So we need to be very, very careful here before we make far-reaching decisions regarding how we're going to heat our homes in winter, how we're going to cool them in summer, or what kind of fuel we're going to be putting into our automobiles and trucks and what have you. Stop and ask yourself, is this really happening, and what is the agenda of those who want us to believe this?
Dr. Barnard Cohen is our guest. He's a senior fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research. So you believe that while glaciers are melting and sea levels continue to rise, and of course the clouds, the forests are drying, and some people still believe that wildlife is scrambling to keep pace, it's not clear that humans have caused most of the past centuries.
No, the funny thing about that is, yes, some glaciers are melting. Others, as a matter of fact, are actually expanding. Sometimes the temperature warms up exceedingly so. Then again, it cools back off. The truth of the matter is, we're not seeing anything now that we haven't seen before. In the past 2 million or so years, the Earth has seen 17 ice ages. 17 times the climate has cooled off so much that giant sheets of ice stretching from the North Pole as far south as Kentucky, 2 miles deep. Then the climate warmed up enough to melt those. And it's been a constant warming up, cooling off. That's all occurred naturally for reasons, quite frankly, we don't really understand. So the notion that human beings, by driving around in SUVs and burning fossil fuels, are actually causing something, no, we're not. We're probably contributing to one change or another, but they are so minuscule, given the grander schemes of things, that there's no need in allowing ourselves to be stampeded into believing that we are destroying the planet, which in fact we are not.
You know, I find this conversation, actually, it's interesting. Of course, I agree with you, and it's something that I've been echoing for so long, because some people think that it's clear that humans have caused most of the past centuries warming by releasing these, what they call is this sort of heat-trapping gases as we power our modern lives. And they try to call this the greenhouse gases, and I know the levels are pretty high, but, so while we call this result global warming, what do you think, and I think you alluded to this, I'm just trying to get into more details, what do you think is causing a set of changes to the Earth's climate, or long-term weather patterns that varies depending on where you are, as you mentioned about the glaciers. In one place they're expanding, in another place they're melting. And so as the Earth spins each day, it's obvious, is it true that, would you say, that new heat swirls with it and sort of picking up moisture over the oceans, rising here and sort of settling there? And is it these changing rhythms of the climate that all living things have come to rely upon, or what do you think differently?
It's an absolutely fascinating subject. I know you mentioned that sea levels are rising. Well, actually, that's true. But you see, they started rising 18,000 years ago.
True.
When the last ice age came to an end, there was a massive melting of ice, and we are actually 18,000 years later still seeing that. That has nothing to do with global warming now. That's just the planet in its own unique way, sorting things out from the last trauma it went through, which was both the last ice age and the end of that ice age. Now, what causes all the various variations?
Let's come back to what causes all the various variations. Dr. Barnard Cohen is our guest. I'm Armstrong Williams. We'll be back.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Crust's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Crust near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrustBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make 100 million or 10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform healthcare? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about the goal, whether it's warming, the greenhouse effect, which we're going to get into, which is sort of the warming that happens when certain gases in Earth's atmosphere sort of trap heat. But as we're going out to break, our guest, Dr. Cohen, was discussing what causes all of the various variations. Could you continue, please?
Right. And, the short answer is we don't know for sure. However, we do know some things that may be able to shed some light on this. The Earth orbits the Sun. We know this. But the Earth's orbit in the Sun is not always the same. Every now and then, the Earth, for reasons we don't fully understand, undergoes a wobble. The Earth also undergoes jerks that are actually caused not by the sun itself, but by instability in the core of the Earth that actually shakes the Earth a bit. What this does is this changes our exposure to the sun, or if you will, the sun's exposure to us. This would certainly provide at least some explanation for why the planet cools off and then warms back up again. It would also just provide us some explanation for the enormous variations that we see in our climate.
So you're saying then that the sunlight sort of shines on the Earth's surface, where it is absorbed and then radiates back into the atmosphere's heat, and then in the atmosphere, sort of what they call the greenhouse gas sort of traps some of this heat, and then the rest escapes into space, and sort of more greenhouse gases are in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped?
Yeah, that's the theory, but sometimes working against that is the fact that our exposure to the sun is not a constant one. And so, yes, there are greenhouse gases that go up, but the Earth undergoes things completely independent of those greenhouse gases, which in no small way offset them. So if you're looking for a monocausal explanation for a warming that may take place, or a cooling that would follow that, you're not going to get very far with greenhouse gases, because that's only one of many, many things that are all going on simultaneously, and which, despite all the research that we've carried out on this, we are only now beginning to understand. What we do know is that chaos is the rule of the day. Nothing stays the way it is, and so politicians, if they want to address the problem of global warming, they're going to come up with laws restricting the use of this, that, and the other. Actually, they're banging their heads against a stone wall, because believe me, that's a fight Mother Nature's going to win, and not politicians in Washington or in Columbia or any place else. We're going to have to live with the world that Mother Nature serves up, and actually, we're remarkably adaptable creatures. We adapt to the changes that come along, and just as our ancestors had to do the same thing. We don't have the same climate that we had, say, 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, it was warmer in the northern hemisphere than it is now, and that came after a cooling, which preceded a warming that took place during the time of the Roman Empire. So change is the norm, and any efforts on our part to freeze in place the climate that we have now, assuming that we can order it up just like you order a pizza, Now, this is a gigantic waste of time. I was reading in the newspaper today, having some flooding now in the Midwest. Well, this is coming on the heels of the drought that we all read and heard so much about in that same part of the world just 1 year ago. So you have this constant back and forth between droughts and floods in those areas of the world which are prone to one extreme or the other. You have years where you have a fair amount of Atlantic hurricane activity, and that will then be followed by years with very little hurricane activity. So you kind of get the picture here. As I said, Mother Nature is going to do what Mother Nature wants to do, and it's really incumbent upon all of us to try to figure out, how to cope with this, and how to avail ourselves of human ingenuity, our own creativity, and to figure that will enable us to deal with whatever Mother Nature chooses to serve up. Yeah, I think the important point for everybody to understand is there a human influence on this? Yes, there no doubt is. Something like 7 or 8 billion people in the world today. We do all sorts of things, some smart, some stupid, and we no doubt change the world around us in certain areas in no small way. But ultimately, I think that pales in comparison to what goes on in nature.
This is really. So, what about the levels of the greenhouse gases that go up and down over the Earth's history, but they have sort of been fairly constant for the past few thousand years? What's causing that?
I think for one thing, you are seeing levels of carbon dioxide. They are higher than they were, say, 50, 100, 200 years ago. Yet in geological terms, they're actually quite low. Carbon dioxide, which is the greenhouse gas that most of the attention focuses on, is, of course, a major building block of life. No carbon dioxide, no trees to hug. Carbon dioxide is essentially plant food. And I think we would be making an egregious error if we undertook enormous efforts to limit the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, because carbon dioxide is very good for agriculture. It's very good for the plant world. And in terms of it rising, it rises and falls. It has done so historically, and at no point in the history of the Earth has carbon dioxide levels actually driven warming. What happens is it's a consequence of warming, not a driver of warming. So if you're thinking about cause and effect, remember the cause always precedes the effect. So if you have rising levels of carbon dioxide, that means that the warming has already taken place. But it wasn't the carbon dioxide that caused it. The higher levels of CO2 in the atmosphere are the effect of temperatures that are rising for entirely different reasons.
What about people who exploit this global warming for their own good, their own agenda,
and turn
it to an economic engine? Talk about that.
Yeah. You see, that's really what we're talking about here, because there are people throughout the environmental movement. There are also companies that who would love to make money on this. And what they really want to do is limit our access to energy. They want to create a scheme for the rationing of energy, which means that unaccountable and unelected bureaucrats, at least as far as the United States is concerned, in Washington, will determine what energy sources we use. That energy will then be rationed. It's ultimately about the choices that we make. There are people who believe that they are anointed stewards of the planet, and they are the ones who, if they are ever given the opportunity to do so, and they are in no small way seizing that opportunity in the Obama administration through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, they are going to restrict our access to our country's natural resources. They are going to restrict our access to energy, thus raising energy prices for everybody. And electricity is an absolute necessity. We can't imagine life without it, even though somehow our ancestors 400 or 500 years ago managed to do so. but we're a different crowd, and we expect that now. And we don't want to live in a world where the price of electricity is artificially driven up by regulations put into place, so we are told, to protect us from human-caused global warming that really doesn't exist.
Well, listen, based on what you're saying, it seems as though that you're implying that climate change is interplanetary.
Oh yeah. It's part of it's part of nature. It always has been. In fact, you could even say the term climate change is redundant. Climates always change. They don't stay the way they are. The North Pole we think of now as having a tremendous amount of ice. Yet there were times in the Earth's history, not even that long ago in geological terms, when there was absolutely no ice in the North Pole, not even in December or January. So you will occasionally read, well, ice is declining in the North Pole. Well, ice is declining in parts of the North Pole. It's also expanding in other parts of the North Pole. But that's a normal cycle. It comes and it goes. It expands and it contracts. What's really interesting is most of the ice in the world is actually in the South Pole, which is much, much colder than the North Pole. The ice in the South Pole has been expanding for decades. So we should all be very careful when people try to tell us, ice is melting in the North Pole, which is actually perfectly normal because it's a cyclical thing. It comes and it goes. They will remain very silent about what's going on in the South Pole because that doesn't conform with the company line of a warming Earth.
Well, so how can people do their own intelligent research in the little time we have left, Dr. Cohen?
I would suggest, because this is a very, very important question, because there are people who really want to indoctrinate you into seeing only one side of the story. But go to some very good websites that have excellent information on this. I would suggest the website of the National Center for Public Policy Research, which is where I am, which is nationalcenter.org. You can also find a great deal on the subject by going to the website of the George Marshall Institute. Simply Google George Marshall Institute. I would also suggest going to the website of the Competitive Enterprise Institute, that's CEI.org. You'll find a wealth of information here, which is contrary to the line that's
Just hold there. I'm going to come back and give you your proper goodbye. Just stay there. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Before I say goodbye to my guest, Dr. Barnard, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Gary Barnard, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. So, Dr. Barnard Cohen, tell our audience how we can get more information and learn about this very important subject and why this subject is so important.
It's very important because this affects your lives. It affects everything that you do, because ultimately we're talking here about the energy that you use, as I said earlier, to heat your home in winter, to cool it in summer. It affects how you're going to raise your children. It's going to have a tremendous effect on your disposable income. If you, in the name of protecting the planet against from global warming, wind up having to spend more of your disposable income for electricity, for fuel, to purchase a home, or whatever, and you're doing all of this based on nothing but a hypothetical scenario that, which in my view is absolutely unproven. If you're going to do all of this, you will be making an enormous sacrifice for absolutely nothing. And if you want to find out more on the subject, just check out some of the websites that I mentioned earlier, where you will find a more balanced approach to all of this. And those will be the websites of the National Center for Public Policy Research, the George Marshall Institute, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and from there you will see links that will take you elsewhere.
Well, look, we can't thank you enough for joining us. What a very insightful conversation, and hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Okay, well, I would love to come back, and I've certainly enjoyed it.
Not as much as we have. Enjoy having you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day to you. Dr. Barnard, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Armstrong. How about yourself?
Just tell me why you're doing so great.
Well, this is a much better Monday than last Monday, I have to admit that. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot about what has happened since last Monday, and I had written this little blog about the opposites principle before that, and I try not to watch too much of the news and the media, pay attention to that, because a lot of it is just kind of repetitive. But that I've read, and when I do keep up with it, it really struck me that this is such an important principle in everything that we do, child rearing, but also we're struck by how much we depend on this natural principle, even after crises and catastrophic events such as we had last Monday. So I'm glad that we could maybe talk some about it today.
Please go ahead.
Well, you know, this opposites principle, it's one that's covered in my book, and I think we all depend on it. It's the common sense name for the more formal bipolarity principle. Big word, but all it is suggesting is that the formal principle is that every proposition has to be capable of both being true and false. So another way of saying that is every problem, every situation has at least two options. And what does that have to do with parents or this crisis? Well, I thought we'd we'd start with the parenting piece, and then maybe we can tie it in after the first break to what happened last week and what we've been seeing and dealing with all week long. And when we're confronted with a problem in our life as parents, our kids are watching us. This is how they learn first. We're their primary teachers. And we tend to look at every situation, every problem, in a way that it's either an opportunity or we look at it as a limitation. It's positive or it's negative. Will it add to my life or will it take away from my life? And that's our choice. But after a while, these choices become habitual, and they start to define us in terms of our characteristics. And our kids are watching, they're listening to us, and they're picking up on these tendencies. The second piece is when we're observing our kids misbehaving, whatever it might be. What's our tendency? Is it to focus on that misbehavior and try to control it, punish it, make it go away? Or do we attempt to go to its positive opposite and strengthen it, shape a response toward that end instead of trying to punish away the negative end? So our attention and our intention becomes very, very important because it will start to define our habits. And it's just an elegant principle that keeps us balanced and is so important in terms of our health and peace and harmony. It's also the hinge pin or the foundation for our behavior management plan with kids. And I say that because it is a plan. We may have thought it out. Most of us have not thought out what our behavior management plan is. I think we need to do that. But that plan is going to be formed by which direction we tend to lean, the negative or the positive. And all the evidence that we have in this field suggests that reinforcing the positive opposite always yields the most powerful change towards self-control for our kiddos. And, you know, having a child that's self-regulated, balanced, is a huge thing. We're passing on a superior way to live our lives. And one of the things I like to do is try to make something practical here. And I think part of our behavior management plan can be this simple. It's when we see an undesirable behavior, we give a warning. We let our kids know that, hey, you know, take a break here, think about this. You're doing this. And then we describe the positive opposite. For example, a sibling walks by and bumps in or hits the other sibling, and that sibling cries or screams and hits, and we don't want that. Well, this is the time to describe the positive opposite of that screaming and hitting, and that would be talk in a normal tone and tell that sibling, that brother or sister, please don't do that anymore. And make it be known clearly and firmly that you don't want that to happen again. Now, we need to be around where we can watch this. If it happens again, we sort of impose a timeout or a think time. This is the time for you to think about what choices you want. Then we model that positive opposite, and then we reward it or try to strengthen that and shape that response. And until they learn that positive opposite choice and it becomes more habitual, we want to reinforce it, strengthen it in all the ways that we can. And the evidence is real clear that we'll get that happening many more times statistically than that undesirable behavior if we do that positive opposite shaping and rewarding rather than trying to punish it out of them. And that's just a really powerful way to interact with our kids and teach them to control themselves. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to share.
You know, how do you just, you know, with the deaths, the maiming, the amputations, how people's lives have been altered? How do you forgive? I have no sympathy for the brother that was killed and the brother that's in the hospital. I have no compassion for them. I just none.
Yeah. Well, that's not an uncommon way to view what's going on, and it's not an uncommon feeling for most of us to have. And many times we not only don't have compassion, we have a great deal of anger, and if we're not careful, we tend to start hating that. But see, here again, we have this proposition about humanity, and it can be, is humanity good? Well, it can have a true and a false. So we can have evil and we can have goodness. We can have these hateful kinds of things and we can have love and charity. And we have to choose what it is that we're going to do enough of the time to where it becomes more of our characteristic. And I'm really impressed when I think about all this, that while I don't know those two people, those brothers, or their family, and it's easy for me to just say I have no compassion for them, and in many ways I don't. But if I was related to them, if that had been my child, I would abhor the behavior, the act, as much as I'm abhorring what they did. But I would then be forced to deal with this in a different way because I would love my son or my daughter. And that puts me in a really interesting confluence of emotions and choices that I have to make. And that's where this positive opposite comes into play. We have this evil event, and then we have all these wonderful, the best of humanity responses from people. And that's the thing that over time, and even immediately, can bring healing and comfort. We're thrown into terror and panic and insecurity, and then with all these positive responses, we're brought back to a sense of balance.
When we come back, we're going to go to the phone line, continue with Dr. Gary Bernard. Call us when you're there. Just be patient. We'll be back.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sports shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back with Gary Barnard. Caller, you're on the line. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes. I don't understand what that person is trying to say.
Wait a minute. What's going on with your phone?
Sorry. I don't understand what the psychologist is trying to say about these young boys, but when I see people acting like that, I tend to blame the parents because I do believe that parents are our first God. So I think sometimes when you see people, they go out and do things like that who are very young, I think the parents should take some type of responsibility because you're supposed to train your child up in the way they need to go. And I don't understand how these two boys turned out this way without their parents even having a hint. They must have done something, so I don't understand, why people do things like that and why parents are not more involved. I think they listen too much to child experts instead of doing their job. So I would like to that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Dr. Barnard, how do you respond to the caller?
Well, I understand exactly what she's saying and how she feels. It's exactly the way I feel. And I am not talking about blame here, but I put a great deal of the responsibility on the parents and always will. I think if we are training our children in the way they should go, they're going to be developing characteristics that put them more in that positive, loving, caring, compassionate end of the spectrum instead of this reactive, negative, evil end. But how do you do that? You have to spend their whole life from day one teaching them that and holding them responsible and accountable. You don't do it by focusing on all the negative things. That will drive you nuts, and it doesn't do anything really to help them. It's just like today, if I had looked back and if I had spent all week long staying focused on the evil acts that those two young men did, I would be so angry and so upset and so negative in everything that I'm thinking and feeling that it would start to define me as a negative person, and it's not healthy. So instead, I acknowledge what they did. I hate what they did. But I've got to start looking at the surrounding goodness that came from it. Not saying that I'm glad it happened.
What is the good that has come from this?
Well, just think about the stories that we've heard about people who have poured their hearts out in support and prayer and love, and those who responded and went to help people in need, and what that's done to all of us in this nation in response to this tragic event. And I think that's the thing that is healing to us all. That's the thing that makes me feel good about humanity, even though I know there's evil, and I hate the evil. I wish it would all go away. Unfortunately, in our lives here on this earth, it's not. It won't go away. So we have to try to drown it out with some light, with some love. And I think we do that by practicing switching off from the negative and going to the positive opposite. And that in and of itself tends to balance out our experiences in our life. It gives us hope. It's the very thing that brings hope, even in the darkness of what they did.
Man, these lives have been shattered and destroyed forever.
Yes, I agree with you.
You were going to take us to phase 2.
Heart-wrenching.
You were going to take us to phase 2 in your opposites. Please continue.
Well, the phase 2 was really what I've been thinking about and reflecting on about this week's events since the bombing, since this tragic terroristic plot to do evil, to bring evil destruction on people. And it's, when we see children and people who've been hurt like this, and then we see kids watching these news programs and then responding, and we see them having nightmares and having all these PTSD-like symptoms, and they're not sleeping well, they're not eating well. How do you bring about a sense of balance and bring back a sense of hope? It's the same thing with kids that are in war-torn areas. The only way you can do that is to bring some security and safety back in and to balance it out with the positive opposite of that evil. And I'm saying if we can stay focused on that, even in the midst of such gross evil, then that is the part of humanity that always lifts us out of despair. And so when you said, tell us about the second phase, that's the real benefit of knowing that this principle not only exists, but it is a natural principle that keeps all of us thriving for better things. And it always brings hope, even when it feels like there's the other end, hopelessness. They exist, they coexist together. Now, if we're to evolve as a humanity, we have to make conscious decisions about which way we go.
But what about the conscious decisions? What about the conscious decisions that they made? Not only to do what they did in terms of the marathon, but they were planning even more deadly attacks. They found seven other bombs that had not detonated yet. I mean, they were bent on destroying other lives, and for what?
Well, you hold them accountable, and that means you try to apprehend them, but if not, you kill them. You terminate evil in whatever way that you can, but it still lives, doesn't it? Even after all the devastation that they brought on to the Boston community, it still lives. What are we going to do with that? So I believe in holding people accountable, undeniably, as immediate and as intensely as you can, holding people accountable. And what they did deserves death. I agree with that. So now what do we do, though, with the carnage, the leftover? Do we stay focused on that? Well, I would choose not to, but in all honesty, we have to be prepared for that sort of thing. So what do we learn from this? Well, we have to have people in the business of doing the dirty work, the daily work of trying to keep us safe. How do you do that and balance it out with our own rights? Well, that's a tough dilemma. And I'm saying for us people, the citizens, we've got to make some choices. Do we now carry among us and within us hate and then react to any kind of evil with hate? No, I think we can, but I think we try to confront it and we hold it accountable, and then we put our time and energy into this other end, which is the love and the acceptance and the. I don't mean tolerance for that. That's not my idea of balance. We don't tolerate it at all, but we're limited in how we can terminate it, make it go away forever. The only way we can do that is to stay focused on the other end in a perfect way, and we're not perfect.
You know, one thing that is true, we cannot allow ourselves to concede to fear, because then we're defeated. We have to shake this off and continue on with our lives. They would do everything they could to disrupt our normalcy, and that's what this is about.
It is. That's exactly what it's about. The fear goes along with the evil. We cannot give in to that. There is another pole. There's another end that we can go to. And where there's love and charity and compassion, and where we dig in and you see people run to help these people in the midst of chaos and the unknown, right into the bowels of danger, that's the kind of thing that lifts my spirit up. I hope it does everyone else's, but that makes me believe that we will overcome this. but we will do it by not staying focused on the evil and the fear. We'll do it because we have hope that we can rise above it.
It definitely shows. No, please,
I'm sorry?
Please continue.
Well, and yet, we must. This is where taxes and all these things that many people get down on. This is the kind of thing we must do. We must be able to pay some of what we earn to pay others to think very deeply about this and to do the daily work of, as best we can, keeping this a safe country, a safe existence for us. It's the same thing that we're challenged to do as parents. We can't do it perfectly, but we have to do the best job that we can to keep our kids in a safe environment, even though sometimes that's disrupted. And then we're going to have to help them get back to a feeling of normalization, health, security, peace. And that's where we are as a nation, and actually as a world.
Yeah, we always appreciate your wisdom and your experience. I tell you, it's just it's really heart-wrenching for what you have to do in life to overcome evil, because you've got to destroy it, and you can't destroy it by becoming evil.
That's right.
Well, look,
but you do have to destroy it.
You have to destroy it. There's no question.
I believe that.
You have to destroy it. How can we learn more about you?
You can find me on the web at www.thepower-parent.com, and I have a blog site there, and would love to hear from people through comments, or you can also email me. There's an email address there on that blog site, and I would love to hear from people. I also wrote a book called Becoming the Power Parent, Becoming a Power Parent, 7 Guiding Principles for Creating a Healthy Family. And I'd love to hear from any of the listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor, and all the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Number one, this is Armstrong Williams on the right side.
For more information